Hi, everybody. This is Cynthia Cleto from Mount Sinai Innovation Partners at the Innovation Cafe. And we're here with Dr. Alex Kagen. He is the site chair of radiology at Mount Sinai West and Morningside, and also the co-founder of Nines, which is an AI-enabled radiology startup. How you doing, Alex?
I'm great, Cynthia. Thanks for inviting me here. Thanks to everyone for listening in.
And do you have your coffee with you since
Yes,
it's
I
the
do. I'm
Innovation
sorry.
Cafe?
I don't have a fancy mug. This is a recyclable cup.
Okay,
So
good.
no microwave, so it gets cold pretty fast. But I do have my coffee.
Fantastic. So we're ready to jump in and chat with you. Innovation Cafe is really a way for the folks to get to know the innovators and inventors within the system that have commercialized technology. So this is really exciting. Based on some of the roles that you have, it's a really an interesting mix of responsibility. So I kind of want to unpack that a little. Maybe tell us a little bit about your background, Alex, and when did you know you wanted to be in medicine?
Well, thank you. So in medicine, so then I'd have to go back kind of a number of years. So my first intro to medicine, other than some family members being in medicine, was actually as a patient myself, and it was a patient myself at Mount Sinai. Funny enough, so when I was 17, I grew up in Manhattan, and I walked into my pediatrician's office one day, which was right on Fifth Avenue and like 99th Street. And I was, after 3 days of shortness of breath, I played basketball back then, and she sent me straight to the Mount Sinai emergency room, where the thoracic surgeon felt like within seconds, put a chest tube in my lung and of course saved my life. I actually had a tension pneumothorax for any of those people on the phone who know what that is. But that was just an introduction to medicine. My career in medicine didn't really begin until my ultimate motivator and my eventual better half, that being my wife, of course. She told me to do something with my life in college, and she said, either why don't you take chemistry and accounting, and clearly I liked one of those better. So that's what got me going into medicine.
That's such an interesting suggestion from your wife. Hey, let's try to do chemistry or accounting.
Yeah.
I guess
No offense to any of the accounts out there.
That's right. And so when did you start at Sinai then?
So I began my career after the last leg of training. I did my fellowship in Baltimore, and I came back to New York City, where I'm from, and started at Beth Israel and St. Luke's Roosevelt, formerly Continuum, and then was blessed in 2015 when we merged with Mount Sinai to be paired under Dr. Bert Dreyer at Mount Sinai, and he moved me from the Lower East Side, which I was mainly at the Beth Israel campus, to the Upper West Side at Mount Sinai West and Morningside, where I became site chair in 2015, and I've had that position ever since.
Fantastic. And so you've seen firsthand for a while what some of the processes and maybe challenges are in radiology. So I guess I'm curious now, what sparked the idea for having automated radiology images? What kinds of problems were you trying to solve based on what you were seeing?
Mm-hmm. So if we go back in time to 2015, there was a lot of hype about AI or artificial intelligence in radiology at the time. There was even, talk that, are we going to need radiologists in 5 years? Should we stop training radiologists? Well, I can tell you it's now 6 years later, and we're needed more now than ever, for sure. So that wasn't real. But what really sparked my interest, I have to say, was one of our outstanding chief residents. I always say you're only as good as the team that surrounds you. And I've been really lucky to have amazing residents, mentors, colleagues, throughout my whole career. And in 2015, this one resident learned how to code, online. I mean, genius, and used TensorFlow to depict with 94% accuracy that a single layer neural network could diagnose Parkinson's disease on anonymized DAT scans. That's a nuclear medicine kind of low resolution study for in Parkinson's disease that we do a fair amount of. And we wrote that up in 2016. And to me, that was really the light bulb moment for me to think like, wow, this is amazing. This is going to change, how we practice.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be involved in that change. And most importantly, I want radiologists to be involved in this change and to help lead this change about how it's going to impact our career. And, as luck would have it, it turns out her husband was college roommates with David Stavens at Princeton, my co-founder of Nines. So, David has an incredibly impressive background, really one of the smartest people I know. And, his career of image-based machine learning started with self-driving cars out of Stanford. That was acquired by Google, which, and became what is now known as Waymo. And then he followed that with another successful startup called Udacity, focusing on online education. And both of these focus on, giving wider access to people in transportation and education. And, David wanted to get into another arena, healthcare. And the point is to give, more affordable access and broader access to great healthcare for people all over this country and the world. And so radiology really was a natural choice, given his image-based machine learning background. Radiology has been digital for many decades now. And so he was looking for a radiologist. So my chief resident introduced us in 2016, and I flew out to Palo Alto. That was amazing. We obviously hit it off and started Nines in 2017. And then, so anyway, that's when we started.
That's fantastic. So I just heard about you when I started at Sinai, and then saw sort of like the evolution of what's happened with Nines. And I'm curious in terms of our group, in terms of MSIP, did we play a role? How did we play a role in interacting with you and helping commercialize Nines?
So for sure. So at the same time, while all this was going on, my startup antenna were on, and we're listening, and I was getting emails, the broadcast emails, probably from you. So thank you. And that Mount Sinai Innovation Partners was hosting lecture series, and back then that was in the Levy Library. When things were live and in person, and soon enough we'll be able to do that again. So make sure you get your vaccine sticker. And I learned a ton of listening into those lectures. Learned a ton about funding, patents, legal issues, conflict of interest, conflict of commitment, and MSIP really helped guide me through all of it. I was able to meet with a bunch of the team members, and really that combined with David's immense experience in startups really allowed Nines to launch.
Fantastic. This is one of the exciting things working at MSIP, is seeing all sorts of technologies like this kind of from inception to sort of the final stages, and meeting people like you and helping them bring technologies to life and to patients that need them. So the other piece of this is the patient and the unmet critical need that any technology that's coming from the system is actually addressing. If I was in the perspective of coming from the patient's perspective, What is the critical unmet need that this is addressing, and what does this mean for me as a patient?
So great question. So let me just step back and say, kind of as radiologists, kind of what we do and how we interact with patients.
Sure.
Some, obviously, we have procedural specialties, and then others, we do a lot of image interpretation. And so as an image interpreter, there really is a huge array of data inputs that a radiologist needs to consider. It's not just images. Images are certainly a big part of it, but there's also electronic medical record data and technologist data if they write notes, nursing inputs. And then we interact with multiple programs all at the same time, DICOM image viewers, dictation software, 3D display. If you're a mammographer, there are other things you interact with. So there's all these inputs that you're dealing with. And that's just for one patient.
Right.
And so not only is the total number of scans kind of going up over time, because if we can see inside your body, that's pretty cool, and you may want that. But also the complexity of these scans are going up. Increasing number of images. We used to have a couple, now we have thousands. We have better treatment, better therapies now, so that patients are living longer with complex diseases. We have to look at imaging treatment response over time, imaging biomarker response. We have to compare not only the current scan to multiple priors. And then the complexity of the electronic medical record inputs is going up. So this requires the radiologist to become more efficient. So as the volume goes up, the complexity goes up, we need to become more efficient to keep up with workflow. So for you as a patient, many radiologists are reading, through a work list that is kind of a first in, first out work list, right? So, whoever got scanned first, you're kind of reading that, and then you get to the next. But we know that within any given list of patients, there may be ones who have critical findings. And so in an ideal world, if you're the sickest patient out of that bunch, I want to pair you, and you probably want to be paired with the radiologist as soon as possible, so that we can diagnose, whatever's wrong with you and get you to the providers who can take care of you right away. And that's really where, we started at Nines, is trying to help triage those patients who are in most need of our help. And then and how we started doing that was to really marry the engineer with the radiologist to try and do that, the computer science engineer. So from a patient's perspective, that's really where we started.
Great. And so after identifying the unmet critical healthcare need and seeing it in person, how did you start Nines?
Well, we started, really, as I said, trying to have that engineer paired with that radiologist. I would say a lot of radiologists are engineers in a way, in our own way. And it makes total sense to have an engineer, computer science engineer, tackle the burdens that we face, whether it's images or whether it's workflows, and really pair us together. As I kind of described earlier, the complete diagnostic workflow for a radiologist is filled with many steps, and not just image-based machine learning. But many current workflows are cumbersome, and somewhat behind the times when you look at other areas. So Nines really wanted to evolve with the clinic to deepen that partnership between world-class engineers and exceptional radiologists. And those radiologists have direct and continuous impact on workflow improvements. And then the entire team is aligned around the highest quality output, which is an amazing radiology report and the highest quality diagnosis for that particular patient. So those nines engineers are now incentivized to tackle all kinds of workflow improvements, make life better for radiologists. As we know, a lot of doctors focus on, number of clicks as we interact with different systems. The idea at nines is get to one click. Things should be one click. Or I guess, kind of like if you're like Amazon now, I guess it's one swipe if you're going to buy something. But getting to one click or no clicks, automate some tasks, semi-automate others, all of which really better can lead to a better work-life situation and reduce burnout, which we know is something that's active now, not just in radiology, but in medicine in general. And therefore, we're really aligning priorities of engineers and radiologists, and allowing the engineers to focus on barriers that slow radiologists down, and engineers can help close those workflow gaps. I'll say that one of the most fun things about startups is the pace of change is so fast. Traditional healthcare can be stagnant, and sometimes being stagnant is good. If it isn't broke, don't fix it. In a way, but the pace of change at startup life is amazingly fast, and the engineers have turned around workflow changes in less than 24 hours, which is amazing.
That is amazing. And it sounds like you've got the best of both worlds there, sort of a fast-paced startup environment, plus you're still deep in the healthcare setting. So that's a great combination. And it sounds like there's a lot of development that continuously happens at this fast rate. What other developments has Nines kind of come into in the last year, for example?
So Nines, we have 3 FDA approvals, which I'm proud to say. So the first 2 are a hemorrhage detector and a mass effect detector. Those are for brain imaging. And the latest is a lung nodule measurement tool. This is fascinating to me because this tool not only saves time, but it can also decrease burnout, and it can improve quality. So it's kind of back to that like triple aim of healthcare. And that's because this tool uses, AI-based measurements, which are consistent. And we know that, if I were to measure a lung nodule, it may be different than the way you measure a lung nodule. And, maybe I use one measurement and you use 2 measurements, and you should really use 2. And maybe the way I measure it today is a little bit different than the way I measure it 2 weeks ago. And so this tool allows you to, improve quality and decrease burnout by not, having to click and measure and click and measure. And this is a great example of, taking radiologist input and then building tools for tasks that, they find difficult to do time and time again. And so in addition to those, the Nines engineering team is helping the amazing group of fantastic radiologists become more efficient since inception to the tune of like 40%. And the product team, who helps guide them, has a strong pipeline of technology features, and they really continue to build on this trend over time.
That's phenomenal. Sounds like there's a lot of learnings there for you and the team in terms of combining healthcare setting, entrepreneurship, startup work. So it's a lot of different moving parts. And I'm sure that there are folks in the system who are going to be attracted to a similar path. And if they are, I'm curious to hear from you, what kind of advice would you give them about, what's worked for you, as well as what kind of challenges and pitfalls should they be cognizant of?
So I guess I would say, number one, I would probably say listen. I've learned a ton by just listening, realizing that, there are many experts out there, and it's so important to listen to all of them. Whether it's my system chair, fellow radiologists, the conflict of interest office, Eric, the whole team at MSIP, and David Stavens, the board at Nine's leadership team, the entire marketing product engineering team at Nines. I mean, I could just, go on forever about listening. And, within Mount Sinai, there's just an endless array of brilliant minds with amazing collective brain power. And you couple that with Silicon Valley engineering, and you realize that there's just so much to learn. So definitely take advantage of listening to everyone who surrounds you. I would also say take any opportunity you can to learn and educate yourself. Those lecture series that I mentioned, I mean, I learned a ton by listening to those, going in person. Then when you go in person, you can have that one-on-one after, you can meet people like you, meet people like Eric, Tony, Felipe, I mean, the whole team, and then make connections and then have discussions after that. If you are a budding entrepreneur, I would say it's important to really hone in on the problem you want to solve, and really be laser focused on that problem. And if you have your startup, be in frequent communication with your board for feedback on company goals and tracking of those goals. And then for clinicians who may not understand different business models, is to kind of read up on what different business models are out there. I don't know many. There may be many docs who don't really know what a SaaS business model really is. And I have to say, when I started, I didn't know what a SaaS model is, and now I know it's software as a service. 2 A's in there. So anyway, how is that different from other services? And then it's important to understand, margins and how you track margin growth over time for sustained advantage, and learning about, enterprise software, what that is. And then I would say partnership. You win as a team, really. And that's what partner means. And I would say contact MSIP early on with your ideas. I mean, as you said, you're the incubator. So you guys really are the place where people should go with ideas. And remember that as soon as you publish an idea, it's in the public domain. That's always a good thing to remember. And use MSIP to practice pitching. Enjoy going, head down to 42nd Street. Not every clinician has a chance to do so, but it's a good reason to go down there. Use you guys to help create a pitch deck and how you can build a competitive advantage, understand return on investment, and help understand the elements of your business, whether the size, market penetration, value prop, for venture capital, et cetera. And I would say partner with the best people you possibly can. Great teams are the one that succeed. I mean, I think at Nines we have a great team. At Sinai we have fantastic individuals that all make up, a great team. And make sure that everyone's priorities are aligned so that, you can have amazing output. And I think that combined with a great team should be, celebrating wins for everyone on board. And really at the end of the day, the goal is to improve health outcomes, improve health access, and improve health equity for all of our patients. And really, don't be shy about wanting to change the world. And then lastly, just in terms of that partnership, one of my favorite quotes from one of my best mentors, it's better to have 50% of something than 100% of nothing. So it just goes back to that partnership and teamwork that I think is crucial for success.
What a great story, Alex. And what is next for you, and what is next for Nines? Where are you guys at right now?
So Nines, we're a Series A company, and now a quality cloud-based radiology practice and using workflow tools built with machine learning by the in-house engineers and guided by the expert radiologists. And we have a amazing website built by our marketing team. So I encourage folks to, with any questions, to check out NIDES on the web.
Sounds good. Maybe just a little bit on also your dual role. You have the role of chair of radiology at Sinai West and Morningside, but you're also a co-founder of a startup that's moving at such a fast pace. So how are you able to do both those roles?
So good question, and I would say site chair, not system chair, as Dr. Dreyer. But I do, as my dermatologist wants me to wear hats because of my, because of my head. It's I'm used to wearing hats, and it's important to know when you have one hat on or one hat off. So there's conflict of interest and conflict of commitment. This is something that I take very seriously, Mount Sinai takes very seriously, and NIDES takes very seriously. And the key, I think, is to be transparent and open. I work with MSIP and the COI office from day one to structure everything so that everyone's interests are aligned, and that everyone knows that Mount Sinai is my #1 priority. The NINES team knows that. The NINES board knows that, and it's very important to share that with everyone, and then of course publish it. And when you need to recuse yourself from a decision, you do. So I think being upfront, transparent about it, and realizing that in the pre-pandemic setting, having time to, flying out once a month to Palo Alto was something I did, and that was easy, kind of from a time commitment standpoint, to understand, where priorities were, and learning how to fly on a red eye was also probably pretty helpful as I learned from my friends in cardiology. But anyway, just being open, transparent, and really working with the COI office was something that really helped, and be in constant communication as things may change over time. So that's another point to realize.
Fantastic. So we are unfortunately at the end of our time, and I wanted to thank Alex here for sharing with us your experiences in innovation and commercializing technology that's really needed by patients out there. And also thank you for everybody who joined us on LinkedIn Live today. Have a wonderful middle of your week. Please check out our MSIP website. And until the next time, until the next Innovation Cafe episode, have a wonderful summer and be well. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.